Awesome. Sweet. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? I kind of got into this habit of not using the actual podium just because I like being level with everyone, if that makes any sense. So I'm not going to be up there. That and I had visuals. For whatever reason, this doesn't work. Is that whiteboard? Yeah, that whiteboard. If it's still not working, I will do my best to draw my visuals and try to make this work. Oh, look, it's on. Well, I'll let that sit. Drew, Daniel, could you please pass out the little pieces of paper? That'd be awesome. So while they're doing that, I just want to say a few things. Just, I don't know, like lots of thank yous and a few apologies. First off, my voice has been in and out for the past couple days, so if my voice cracks or for whatever reason I just can't speak for a few minutes, it's probably because of that, I think. Secondly, the first part of my sermon's a bit like school teacher-y, so I'm very sorry, guys. I know you're in summer, but I'll try to make it short, or at least that part short anyway. It's just a visual. It's just to get the ideas flowing and kind of just get you to visualize what it is I'm trying to explain by the whole dust into diamonds. And as far as just the thank yous, I want to thank everyone for letting me be here, speak to you, and hopefully have whatever God's message is through me to come to you guys. And also the youth board for selecting me for this, albeit it was kind of, how do we say, because I feel bad because I'm technically on the board, so my name's kind of thrown in as like, in case we don't find anyone, here you go. Anyway, you'll notice that Drew and Daniel are passing out these little pieces of paper. They're to help with the visual that I'm trying to convey. And so there's also a measurement to this. These are about 1 inch by 1 inch. And it's to explain, I guess, the whole, I don't know if you guys have heard of PSI or pounds per square inch kind of thing. Oh, hey, look, there it is. Sweet, I can use the clicker now. I have to draw. Imagine having to draw a diamond, that'd be awful. Anyway, let's turn this on. Right. Anyway, oh, sweet, it's on. So, the whole concept of what I'm trying to go for is a diamond. Now, diamonds, from what I've read up and looked at, they're made of the most simple compound we know on Earth, which is carbon. And in order to become a diamond, the carbon has to go through multiple processes, and most of which include being pressurized very intensely. They need to be superheated at the same time. And then once all of those things have been done properly, it then comes out of the ground and is later collected by us to be used as diamonds. But saying it just that simply is very plain. Yeah, sweet. So I kind of want to give you a bigger picture of how the whole process actually works. So we're first going to look at the pressure that the carbon actually goes through. So rough estimates for how much it's supposed to go through is about 650,000 psi, and that's the low end. The high end's about 870. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, oh no. Wow, oh, there it is. So that statue, well, the statue that you guys saw for like 2 seconds is a statue in Rio de Janeiro. It's called Christ the Redeemer. Now, oh man, anyway, there it is. Sweet, we're back. Now, that's the front side, gives you a visual, there we go. So that's the front. And it gives you kind of like a sense of scale. That thing's made out of stone. It's very heavy. It's very dense. Now, 650 is what I said was the low end, right? So it's about half of the actual statue. And imagine that little tiny square that I handed out to you, or that Drew and Daniel, bless them, handed out to you. Imagine this little square weighing as much as half, or that current picture right there. That's roughly the low end of what the carbon goes through in order to become a diamond. Now, in the high end, we got this bad boy over here. This is a Boeing 747-400 MAX. And to reach, and I think before liftoff, its weight is about 875,000, so a little over the amount, but it's roughly the same ballpark. And that thing, when it's fully loaded and ready to go off the tarmac, that's how much it weighs. So imagine your little piece of paper that I gave you guys is that giant plane that carries hundreds of people across the Atlantic every year. So, diamonds go through intense pressure, but they also go through extreme amounts of heat. Since we're in America, I'll use Fahrenheit. It goes, I think, carbon goes through about, I think it's like 1,650 to 2,370 degrees Fahrenheit, so very hot. At that point, it's essentially lava or magma. And just that amount of heat, that's where rocks melt and things are just unbearably hot. I mean, I've been here when it's like 115 and it's just like suffocating. So imagine that. That's just another whole other level of heat. And so, thankfully, that's the end, I think, of my images, so I can not worry about this thing anymore. But, so, diamonds have a certain parameter where they need to be in order to become diamonds. So there's that range of 650 to 870,000 pounds per square inch. And the heat has to be just right as well. Keep that in mind because, let's say the carbon goes through the process but doesn't completely, let's say it gets under pressured and doesn't reach that minimum, or it gets overpressured or doesn't get hot enough, or if there's anything off in that equation, it doesn't become a diamond at all. There's no way it can become that as we go through the process completely. And so, it's a fly. So why talk about diamonds and carbon and all this very sciencey, very, worldly example? I was actually worried when I first came up here because I heard Earl speak earlier during the classes and he talked about butterflies, and I was like, I almost wrote about that, and I was worried, but thankfully I didn't. So diamonds and the process that they go through is very similar to how Christians go through life. We start out as this very simple, very basic compound, and then we go through life. We go through tons of pressure, tons of problems, tons of tribulations, tons of just things that life throws at us. And so we're constantly being bombarded by all these different things. And what I want to just go through with you guys is just this idea that, and for those of you who don't know, the theme for the youth classes this year was metamorphosis or transformation, so carbon to diamond. But also the theme for camp was Amazing Grace. And those two ideas go together very well and just have this synergy that really cannot be skipped or avoided. And just the whole idea of comparing us from being simple humans who have lost their way and don't have God to becoming Christian and having a fulfilling life is so uniquely structured. And so, as you heard from Paige, the reading that we had was 1 Peter 1, 6 through 9. And when I found this reading, I kind of wish it had said diamond instead of gold, but, it just worked out that way. But still, it's a good scripture to read. Pull it up real quick. And it says this. Yeah. Oop. Right. It says, "In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a title you may have had to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. These have come so that to proven genuineness in your faith. For greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with the inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the end result of your faith and the salvation of your souls. What I want to focus on today is just the process that we go through as Christians on a daily basis or over the span of months or years. And specifically, when it talks about, even though refined through fire, that part in particular I want to focus on because, at least for me personally, and I'll get into this later, it's been a big part of my life being refined through trials and tribulations, and it is such a big part of who we are. And so, there we go. Lost my notes. So there's another verse I also wanted to show another picture of the trials and tribulations, which is 2 Corinthians 12, 6 through 10. If I remember correctly, this is Peter. Hold on. And it says this: even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say, or because of these surpassingly great revelations. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in result of hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And what I like about this verse so much is that it paints this picture of us being tested, us being put in difficult situations and still coming through, because in the weakness that we are in the human form that we are in, God's glory can shine so much brighter because we can't do what he can. And so, what I like about this is that it kind of shows, I'm sorry, I'm lost my own thought. I'm not going to read it, but there's another verse that I think Aaron Henderson read about 2 days ago in Ephesians 2, 8 through 10. And there's a specific word that is used. Most translations say workmanship, that we are the workmanship of God. In the original Greek, I believe it's poemia or something, so very much like a poem. And I've always liked, there was a version I read long ago that said masterpiece of God. And I always liked how it just correlated that idea of us being, this very simple thing, but yet we are the masterpiece, the jewel of creation. We are the thing that he wanted to have a relationship with and just to be in connection with us. And so I wanted to, just paint this example of, the different pressures and things that we go through in our lives, but also to keep in mind that, life is full of many different trials and tribulations. And this is where it's going to get a bit personal. I'm going to talk about myself, about what's been going on with me for over the past, I want to say 2 years. I've been through a lot, and it's definitely shaped me in the person that I am today. I do also want to put a bit of a caveat. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me or anything like that. This is just me wanting to share with you guys a piece of who I am and a piece of what I've been through, so that maybe through that you guys can have a glimpse of what life can be like. I know we all suffer from different things. I know we all go through different pains and tribulations. This is just my story and what I've been through and what I've been able to see because of that. So about 2 years ago, I had a very big life choice to make. I just finished about 4 years of community college, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was trying to figure out what I wanted. I was like being forced, or like to what direction I was headed. And then I got accepted to this private school close to my house, and I decided I'll go for it. Like it was the only, just out of the grace of God, and I'm glad I went there. I was able to go there and grow, even though I passed through a lot. So I started this new school. I knew nobody when I went there. I was alone in a sea of faces. Mind you, it's a Christian school, but it's hard. Like I'm very introverted, so going out and reaching out to people is very difficult at first. And so I want to say it took about a year to like really connect with people there. And so, I'm there, everything's new. I knew one person who was my cousin, but I maybe saw him once or twice a week, so, it didn't really work out. But it was a completely different experience. And I've met people, I made friends, but I also ran into a lot of different drama and problems that I had to deal with. So a couple of my friends that I met early on, I don't know how I ended up meeting with them. It was just spur of the moment. And then now we're like really close friends, but they got reported for something that just seemed beyond me. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Title IX, but it's essentially this whole thing where if you get reported for it, it's usually sexual harassment, but like me knowing them, at least as well as I did, it just didn't fit, and luckily it didn't. I'm just glad that was over, but for like one of my friends, it spanned for like a year and a half, the whole issue. He had to go to court, and it was just this whole fiasco, and that was just a whole mess, but I stuck with him and prayed with him, and we had a lot of moments where we were worried, and like that was a whole mess. My classwork was a thing of its own. I don't think anyone has been to my home church where I actually showed the pile of books I had for a single semester. It was like that big. That was just one semester. Now I spent 4 semesters there, so I had about, I want to say like roughly like 40 books that I had to read through, so that was fun. And in that span of time, I also had tons of papers and projects that I had to do. I think I've written about like 200 plus pages of just writing of like history and politics and philosophy and religion. And I got through it. I mean, I'm not much of a writer, I'll be honest. Before going to the school, I was actually an engineering major, so math and science was kind of my thing. But switching over to history and writing, it was alien to me, but I did it. And by the end of it, looking back, it was totally worth it. But so, I have all these things that I'm going through. I'm working on school stuff. I had an internship at one point, which unfortunately wasn't paid, but the whole internship was voluntary, or like the place that I was at was voluntary, so that was a thing. But then there was a confusion that I had to write a paper for it that I didn't know about like halfway through the semester, so that was fun. And then through all of that, I also found out that and this part was it was weird, because I kind of found out towards the end of it that I'm like partially ADHD, although they said it was very more focus-based as opposed to like hyperactive. So, and it kind of dawned on me, it kind of made sense, because then, when I'm writing a paper, and mind you, when I write papers, I'm sitting at my computer for like 10 hours just typing away, because that's the only thing I can focus on, and that's the only thing I will focus on, because if I focus on something else, that paper is not getting done. And so that was kind of my life. I had that. I also got diagnosed as like slightly clinically depressed, so that was a fun one to find out. So I had all these things happen to me. I had Oh, what else did I have? I don't know. There was a lot of things going on. But despite all of that, I managed to get through. There were some times where I definitely messed up. There were times where I definitely, turned in a paper late, or I didn't do so great on an exam because, written exams are the worst. I think someone mentioned blue books earlier this week. I don't know if you guys know what blue books are, but they're great because they're just packets with lined paper inside and you just write. That's your test. It's fun. No, it's not. But the point being is there were a lot of difficult things and things I had to readjust and redo and things that I wasn't completely familiar with. But what got me through this is before going to the school, I had made a promise to myself. I had made a decision to go through with whatever it is I had planned, whatever it is I had decided on that year. And my whole goal was to finish school, get my teaching stuff done, and then work. That was my goal. But I didn't just make that promise to myself. I made that promise to God. A lot of things lined up for me to be at this school. A lot of things aligned for me to go through that program, to go through these past 2 years. And so I told him, if this is what you want me to do, help me stay here. Help me go through the fire. Help me go through the pressure. Help me go through the stress, the anxiety, all the problems and different dramas and things that I had to see over the past 2 years. That was the promise that I made. And that's the promise that I would like for all of you to keep in mind. And kind of a secret reason why I gave you guys all these was to use that as a reminder of what it is that was keeping you going. Like for me, when I had some, not full-blown depression, but I was sad and really out of it many times during these past 2 years. But reminding myself that, I have a plan. I have something I need to look forward to. I have something at the end of the line. And getting there and graduating and getting my diploma and shaking the professor's hand, that was an awesome feeling. To get through all of that, all the stress that I went through, all the pain that I endured, I was able to make it because I recognized that the plan that I had was not entirely mine. It was God's plan. And I was fully committing myself to that plan. And I encourage you guys to aim for that same goal of fully committing to God's plan. It's not easy, I will admit. Because, like I said, I stumbled along the way. These past years, they were very hard, but I managed. And now that I've gone through that stage, I've gone through the fire, I've been there in that moment, I have this realization that I can continue to do this. I can continue to grow. I can continue to go through the fire because I know I can make it through because, I have God by my side. I have someone who makes the impossible possible. I have someone who is there for me whether I want him to be there or not. And so what I want to get out of you guys, I want you guys to get out of this is that, and also just from what I've heard, I know I'm not the only one who's going through stuff right now. Everyone's got people they care for that are sick or injured or just in a bad spot. And as much as I would like to be able to completely understand where you are, I can't. Because we haven't had the same fire process. We haven't been through the same pressures. But I want you to know that God can be there for you. And, also the great thing about church and being here and having this whole congregation come here from around the nation is that, we're all here for each other as well. And so, I want, to take this moment just for you guys to I want to pray just as I know this is really short, but I want you guys to, excuse me, kind of just take a moment to and I guess I'm taking this a bit from campus, just to close your eyes, to be still for a moment, and just think about all the things that you've gone through, all the things that you've been through, all the things that you're currently going through. And I want you to think, how has this affected me? Why am I going through this? How can this benefit me in the future? What can change? What could God's plan possibly be? Now, I understand that we're probably not ever going to understand his plan fully now. But there is a day when we will be revealed everything, where we will know his full plan and see every little aspect of why we went through certain things. And so I want you guys just to meditate on that for a second as I take this moment to pray and just to consider, all the things that we're going through or all the things that we've been through. Because you'll see that God has put his plan in motion in every single one of our lives. And so, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for this time that we get to spend here today, that we get to be here and worship you and praise your name and just learn more about you. And God, I just want to thank you for me personally just getting me past these last 2 years, for pushing me and pressing me and molding me into what it is you want me to be, Lord. Putting me through the fires of trials and tribulations so that I could be here in this moment. And I just ask that you bless the people here in this building, the people of this church, and the people that maybe couldn't be here today, that you bless them wherever it is that they are. That you give them the strength to go through these trials and tribulations. That you empower them, Lord, to continue to move forward, to fully commit to everything that you have planned and in store for each and every single one of them, Lord. I ask that you just be with them, Lord, and continue to show up in their lives, comfort them, give them peace, and love them, Lord. And also to help us love one another, to be there for one another, to comfort one another, and just to have this familial feel to one another, Lord. I just ask that you continue to be with us here in this camp, that we can continue to grow as the days go by and continue to grow as we all go back home, but also that our connections here can withstand the test of time, that whatever relationships we build here, whatever connections we create here can continue on past this place, Lord. I ask that you just bless us here and continue to be with us. And I just ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.